The Walkers, also known as the decaying heartbeat of the Walking Dead universe. They're not just zombies. They're the end of everything we thought we knew about civilization. They're not intelligent. They don't speak. They don't feel. But they persist till they are shot in the head, and that's what makes them truly terrifying. Unlike classic zombies that shamble for a scene or two before getting their heads blown off, these creatures are the world now. One scratch, one bite, and you are not just dead, but converted. Your body joins the swarm, your soul replaced by a need so basic, so primal, it becomes infectious. And don't get fooled by their slowness. Alone, sure they're easy, but they never come alone. They gather like shadows, drawn by sound, scent, movement. By the time you see one, there's probably 20 more behind it. And the most brutal truth, it's not always the fastest monster that kills you, it's the one that never, ever stops moving. They don't sleep, they don't starve, they don't feel pity, and they don't forgive. They've taken farms, cities, safe zones, armies. They've taken children. Lori, Rick's wife, died giving birth, alone, terrified, in a boiler room, and Carl, barely 12, had to shoot his own mother in the head so she wouldn't rise. Then there's Sophia, a little girl lost in the woods and returned as a walker after a few days. Rick had to shoot her in the head himself. That's the world the Walkers created, where children don't get childhoods. They get trauma, guns, impossible choices, or an unwanted end. The Walkers stripped people of privacy, of humanity, of peace. They forced people to eat cold beans out of cans, drink from dirty rivers, hide under rotting cars. They turned people into ghosts while still breathing. Rick lost his mind. Michonne became a sword-wielding shadow. Carl lost an eye, and then his life, and many more stories followed. And in that way, the Walkers are more than monsters. They are history's great reset button, nature's final judgment, a crawling, moaning reminder that life, left unchecked, always rots. Resident Evil zombies aren't just the mindless dead. They're engineered suffering, born from a lab, built by greed, perfected by cruelty. The T-virus wasn't some accidental outbreak. It was designed, weaponized, and then lost. These zombies don't shamble aimlessly for long. They sense vibrations, light, even heat. The moment you breathe near one, you're not alone anymore. Their skin peeling, stretched, blackened, isn't just for horror. It's proof of a body dying over and over again. Joints dislocate as they walk. Limbs drag. But what they lose in precision, they make up for in unrelenting drive. They never stop. No pain, no hesitation, no fear. They do not tire. The T-virus is just the start. There are lickers, the brain exposed, wall-crawling freaks born from mutation, hunters, fast and amphibious nightmares with claws that tear clean through body armor, and worst of all, the tyrants. 8 feet of lab-grown brutality with one job: eradicate anything that breathes. Even more twisted are the Plaga zombies infected not with the T-virus, but with parasites. They think, they use weapons, speak in guttural commands. What makes Resident Evil zombies truly terrifying is that they aren't limited to a graveyard or a cursed town. They're replicable, made in labs, spread in cities, carried by rats, water, the wind, or a single wound. And when it does, you won't even know you're infected until your skin starts to itch and the hunger begins. These zombies don't just eat flesh. They erase identity. They strip towns of culture, love, and memory. They chew through soldiers, friends, pets, and make you doubt if saving the world is even worth it anymore. Because by the time you pull the trigger, the damage is done. You can nuke a city, but you can't kill what's already spread worldwide. Dying light. The infected of dying light are not just dead men walking, they're rage, disease, and despair fused into muscle and bone. Born from the Haran virus, these creatures aren't corpses, they're transformations, victims caught between life and death, or something much worse. The streets of Haran were the first to know this horror, but it didn't take long for it to spread like a curse sown into the wind. The biters are the first form, slow by day, twitching and swaying, with skin half melted from decay, but never still. Their jaws snap on instinct, drawn to sound, movement, life. You think you're safe if you move fast enough until you run out of stamina and realize you've cornered yourself in a dead end with 20 hands clawing at your back. And then night falls, and everything changes. The air grows colder, heavier, like the city itself knows what's about to rise. The volatile's apex predators, glowing-eyed demons in shredded flesh, erupt from the darkness. They're not shambling corpses. They're monsters built to hunt, sprinting with inhuman agility. And while you're trying to outrun death, the howlers are already watching. Perched on roofs like twisted sentinels, they let out deafening screeches the second they see you. And with that scream comes the stampede volatiles, virals, biters, all crashing toward your last known position. Then comes the virals. They're the ones that haunt you. They're not fully turned. Not yet. You hear them screaming with their original voices, begging, angry, crying. You kill them fast, not out of mercy, but because if you hesitate, they'll tear your throat out. And while you're catching your breath, a demolisher might charge through the smoke-eaten feet of muscle and bone, mutated into a juggernaut with a skull, like concrete and fists that break cars in half. They don't chase, they crash. Through metal, through bodies, through anything standing between them and destruction. The zombies of Dying Light are not just mindless enemies. They are suffering made physical. They are what happens when society rots from the inside out. They are your neighbors, your children, your own reflection in the mirror if you stay in the dark too long. The Last of Us. The monsters from The Last of Us aren't born from the dead. They grow from the living. The cordyceps fungus doesn't kill you in the traditional sense. It hijacks you. It takes everything that makes you human, your thoughts, your memories, your choices, and buries them beneath a parasite that turns your body into a walking weapon. The infection begins small, a spore in the lungs, a twitch in the fingers, and then the fungus burrows into the brain, wrapping itself around your will like a vine choking a tree. Within hours, the victim is gone. The first stage is the runners, the newly infected. Fast, twitchy, filled with raw panic and aggression ones. They scream with voices that sound almost human.
And I said, well, what color's your brigade? Oh, fuck off then.
They move in erratic bursts, attacking in swarms, pouncing on their prey with unhinged jaws and clawed hands. They're not zombies in the classic sense, they're victims, still partially aware, still fighting what's inside them. Then, with time, the fungus grows bolder. It pushes outward, breaks through the skull, blossoms into hardened plates, and turns them into clickers. Their eyes are gone, eaten away by fungal growths, but that doesn't make them blind. They see through sound, echolocating with a chattering noise that echoes through ruined cities and empty streets like a twisted lullaby. One wrong breath, one scuff of a boot, and they're on you with inhuman force, biting through necks, smashing skulls, ripping bodies apart. You don't fight a clicker head on. You avoid it, because one hit is all it takes. The bloaters come next, mountains of fungi and flesh, armored in hardened spores and oozing with rot. They move slower, but every footstep shakes the ground. They throw acidic spores like grenades, melt your skin, and rip your jaw clean off. And if that wasn't enough, there are rumors of shamblers, even rat kings, abominations of multiple infected fused together, grotesque sculptures of suffering, pulsing and crawling beneath layers of flesh and fungus. They don't just kill, they infest. But it's not just the physical horror of the infected, it's what they represent. The silence they leave behind. Cities swallowed in spores, highways littered with corpses, fathers locking infected children in basements, mothers choosing bullets over fungus, survivors forced to shoot friends in the face before they sprout a mushroom from their eye socket. The infected in The Last of Us are not the end of the world. They are what comes after. A reminder that in this apocalypse, nature doesn't die with us. It adapts, it evolves, it survives, and it does not mourn the ones it devours. Plants vs. Zombies sounds like a joke, right? A slow, shambling corpse with a stupid grin and a flower pot on its head. But that's the genius of it. That's the horror. Because behind the goofy design and lawn-mowing jazz beats lies something more terrifying than any flesh-eating walker. Relentless, endless, idiotic hunger. These zombies don't just want your brains, they insist on them, marching forward with the patience of time itself. At first, it's just one corpse, half-dressed, jaw unhinged, stumbling toward your perfectly trimmed front yard. But then come the others' cones on their heads like helmets, buckets like armor, old men using newspapers as shields, as if they're going to read while devouring you. Some pole vault right over your walls. Some ride dolphins. Some are dressed like disco dancers, their corpses still moving to music decades after their hearts stopped. Then comes the war machine, Dr. Zomboss, the master puppeteer of this brain-hungry circus, rolls in with his zombots and his mad inventions, waging a campaign of chaos in the most ridiculous, yet shockingly effective way possible. These zombies evolve faster than nature, with more creativity than any army. Football jocks with super strength, miners who tunnel beneath your plants, gargantuars swinging streetlights like clubs, and hurling smaller zombies as projectiles and whatnot. They aren't the fastest, they aren't the smartest, but they are the most stubborn monsters ever animated. And in their relentless march, there's something worse than death. There's humiliation. Because if you fall not to the T-virus or an ancient curse, but to a zombie in pajamas, you don't just lose your brain, you lose your dignity. In the end, these aren't your average undead. Return of the Living Dead. The zombies from Return of the Living Dead, they don't just come for your brain, they come to make you scream. It started with a mistake, a misdelivered barrel, sealed shut with military tape, and a label warning, "Do not open." But curiosity always kills. The moment it cracked open, that yellowish-green gas trioxin poured out and turned the dead into something humanity wasn't ready for. The infection was airborne, absorbing into the soil, seeping into corpses buried 6 feet deep. And when the rain came, it woke them up, they thought. Their bodies were dead, but their minds still awake forever. That's the curse of trioxin. Eating human brains gave them a moment of silence in their own heads, and they'd rip you apart for it. There's no way to kill them. You burn them, they become smoke. That smoke rises into the air, mixes with the clouds, and comes back down in the rain, waking up more of the dead. You cut off their limbs, and those limbs crawl after you. You decapitate them, and their heads scream your name.
Got to let me eat your
Some zombies are fresh, skin still clinging to muscle, twitching like they're caught between two worlds. Others are nothing but rotting skeletons, with eyeballs that roll wildly in sockets, jaws that clatter as they moan in agony. The real terrors are the ones who've been underground for years, swollen with water, bloated like decaying balloons, skin sloughing off in chunks. The return of the living dead zombies aren't a plague, they're a message that even death has a price, that some things were never meant to be awakened, and once that barrel cracks open, it never ends. Train to Busan. The zombies from Train to Busan, they don't crawl from graves or drag chains behind them. They come like a flood, fast, twisted, and completely unforgiving. These aren't your slow, rotting corpses moaning into the wind. These are bodies possessed by rage and instinct, twitching like broken marionettes, sprinting on shattered ankles, throwing themselves through glass and steel just to tear into warm flesh. Their bodies are what make them so terrifying. Veins black and bulging, eyes clouded white, muscles firing like they're controlled by electricity. It's not just physical, it's emotional carnage. Fathers watching their children turn, lovers holding each other as the horde descends. As the survivors fight their way forward car by car, inch by bloody inch, they learn the rules. The zombies go blind in the dark. They stop when they can't see. But even that knowledge isn't salvation. Because at every station, every stop, there are more. Cities overrun, soldiers dead, friends become enemies. And no matter how fast that train moves, the infection is faster. You don't kill these zombies. You outrun them, if you're lucky. You hide from them, if you're smart. But you can't fight them. The zombies from the sadness, they aren't dead. They're infected with something far more terrifying, a virus that erases humanity. These aren't creatures driven by hunger, but by perverse joy. Their eyes turn bloodshot, their smiles wide, twitching, uncontrollable, but they know what they're doing. That's the horror. These monsters feel everything. They laugh, they speak, they remember who they used to be, and they enjoy the suffering they cause. The Alvin virus doesn't bring mindless violence. It brings calculated, gleeful sadism. Every act of violence is sexualized, exaggerated, prolonged. There is no logic, no hierarchy, no cure. Only a city drowned in the sound of screams and laughter, blending into one monstrous choir. Trapped in a body they no longer control, but a mind that revels in it. Some beg for help even as they stab their friends. Some whisper apologies between fits of giggles and mutilation. There are no safe zones, no heroes, no rules. The infected move like shadows through the alleyways and parks of Taipei, blending in with normal people just long enough to snap. And once they do, the carnage is cinematic.